Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Arbaugh, Municipal Manager of Bethel Park, and I really appreciate you coming out today for the second annual Town Hall meeting. Can everybody hear me okay? Good, excellent. One of the things I'll do, if you do have a question, I'll ask you to come up to the microphone and we'll try passing it around. Unfortunately, our wireless one isn't working so well, but this one works well, so we'll use this one. Just so everybody can hear the question. And we are televising tonight and also taping, so we'll have that question on for future reference if we need it. So again, thank you for coming tonight. We have a lot on the agenda, so I'm just going to set out a few ground rules. First of all, make sure you get some cookies and water up here, right up next to Chief O'Connor, and help yourself. Please feel free. We don't want to keep them here because municipal staff will eat them all. So make sure you eat them and take them with you. Second thing. We're going to do a series of presentations, approximately 10 to 15 minutes long. I'm just going to ask, we're going to have time for about a minute or two of questions after each presentation, and then we're going to have 30 minutes at the end for just general questions. So I'm just going to ask you, if you don't get your question in, just wait till the end, and we'll have some time for general questions. At 7:30, I'll be turning the presentation over to Mackin Engineering. At that time, the staff you see up here is just going to go back in the caucus room and answer any individual questions you might have. So if you have a question on a building permit or a code violation or some kind of individual type issue, feel free just to grab them afterwards. They'll be back in the caucus room right through this door. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Again, I'm just going to ask you to, we'll have time for one or two questions after each presentation, but then about 30 minutes at the end for questions. So there's a lot going on with the municipality, and I know a lot of people are interested in the new garbage contract. So let me talk about the new garbage contract and what that's going to entail. The biggest change with the new garbage contract is the type of container. So we are moving to what's called automated garbage collection. In a minute, I'm going to show a short video of what kind of that looks like. But these are the new cans that we'll be utilizing. We have a 96-gallon, 65-gallon, and a 35-gallon. And you're welcome to come up here and test them out afterwards and check them out and see which one might fit you. These are going to be available at outside for the remainder of the year. So you come in, stop in any time to check them out and move them around. The dimensions, and there's more additional facts on our website, bethelpark.net, under departments, under garbage collection. So if you want to check that out, feel free to. One of the biggest things, we're going to send postcards out starting in early to mid-November. The postcards are going to ask you to select a size of trash can. If you don't select a size, you're automatically going to be given the largest trash can, the 96-gallon container. If you think that 96-gallon is way too big for me and my family, I want something smaller, you're going to be able to select that smaller size using an automated dial-in telephone system. So that opportunity will be available. I know some people are like, one trash can is just not going to be enough for my family of 6 and I. So what am I going to do? Starting May 1st, we're going to allow folks to come in and purchase a second container. The second container will cost approximately $55, but it will be available after May 1st. So we want you to try the new automated container out for a month. That starts April 1st, and then beginning May 1st, we'll take orders for a second container. So with that, I just want to show you a quick video of what automation looks like. Yeah, can you hit play on that? Actually, just hit.
Trucks allows us to collect your waste while moving through your community more quickly and efficiently. Done correctly, the driver remains in his cab. This benefits your town and residents like you because your wastes are collected more quickly, increasing productivity and controlling the cost of service. To make the most of this technology, we need your help. It's important that you properly position the containers so they're ready for collection. It's simple. Here's how it works. Just place your container or containers along the street, leaving about 3 feet of space between the container and any other objects or vehicles. Make sure the lid opens toward the street, allowing enough room for the truck's automated arm to grip the container and tip its contents into the truck. Positioning the container is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, load the containers. 2, point the containers in the proper direction. 3, place each container about 3 feet apart from the other.
Okay, so that's what Matt, just to give you an idea of kind of what it will look like, that's automated trash. And I know there's going to be some complications. We already have some townhome that we're experiencing may have some issues with. So Waste Management is going to address those on a case-by-case basis, so we're working through that. There are some streets that they're not going to be able to do the automation where the arm comes out. They will still do those manual, but you'll still get the same container you would as if they were doing full automation. So the second big change we're going to see with the new contract is recycling. So recycling is going to stay exactly the same as you have it now. So if you have crates or if you're using another container that's marked recycling, you're going to do the same exact thing as you always have. It'll be every other week recycling. The difference is the types of materials that you'll be able to recycle. Unfortunately, you'll no longer be able to recycle glass or number 3 through 7 plastics. So those will now become a garbage item. So the only materials that are going to be recyclable are cardboard, mixed paper, newspaper, numbers 1 and 2 plastics, and clean aluminum and tin cans. So unfortunately, the rest of the stuff is going to be trash. And we're going to have about a year compliance period to make sure that we're following the new rules. After that year's up, we are going to be penalized if we have trash mixed in with the recyclables. So something we'll be doing a lot of education on and going over with the public. It just doesn't affect Bethel Park. It affects the 19 other SHACOG municipalities that are part of this contract. So it does affect a lot of us, and really globally it affects most people. The next big change is yard waste. We are discontinuing curbside yard waste. So, and just to let folks know the difference between yard waste and leaf waste. Yard waste is grass clippings. Leaf waste is not grass clippings. So leaf waste includes sticks and other things that, and leaves. We are going to still do 8 curbside leaf pickups a year. This is actually one more than we're currently doing. We're currently doing 7. So once in the spring and 7 times in the fall, they'll do curbside leaf waste pickup. For yard waste, we were doing the 3rd Saturday of every month. I think folks had their yard waste out. We are discontinuing that service. We will have a special collection vehicle located at our Public Works building to collect yard waste. So you can bring up leaves, grass clippings, tree branches, whatever you need to, and dispose of it up there. Or you can put the grass clippings in your trash container with your garbage. So that would be acceptable. You could also mulch, compost, and do other traditional methods of disposal for grass clippings. I have about 2 or 3 minutes to take any questions on trash, so if anybody has any questions, yes, ma'am. The question was bulk items. What do they do with bulk items? It's the same as we do now. You're allowed to set 1 out per week curbside. So you can set your mattress out. You don't have to call anybody. You just set it out on your normal trash day. Yes, ma'am.
What about main roads like South Park Road or Bethel Church Road where the cans tend to get into the street? Buying cans?
The cans are guaranteed for 10-year manufacturer warranties. So if they are damaged from that, the company will replace those. Yes.
I know if we wanted a second one after May 1st, we could purchase it, but do we have to purchase the first one as well?
You do not have to purchase the first one. The first one will come to you. Again, if we're going to send a postcard out in the mail, if you don't respond to that postcard, you're going to, by default, get the largest container, the 96-gallon. Yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, I missed a little bit of the beginning. That arm on that truck, will that hit both sides of the truck, or just like the passenger side, or just the driver's side?
I believe it's just the passenger side. Yes.
And also, real quick, as far as the recycle, are you just gonna stick with the orange and the black cans, correct?
That is correct. We're going to stick with the orange and the black cans, but there are some options out there. For example, folks are probably wondering, what can I do with my old trash container if I'm getting this new trash container? You can put a recycle sticker that we'll make available on it, and you can utilize that for recyclables.
Yeah,
So,
they're about $2 down in Home Depot.
yeah, yep. So, yes, sir.
Can we purchase cans from somebody other than Bethel Park if it's the same type?
You can use different cans. So if you have an existing can that may look like this, as long as it has that attached lid, you're able to use that. The only difference is they won't guarantee it if it breaks. So for example, if it's one of our containers that breaks, they're going to replace it. If it's one of your containers that breaks, they're not going to replace it. Way in the back, sir. Yeah, they're going to take your old garbage cans. So there's 3 different things you can do with them. One is you can use it for your recycling. One is you might be able to reuse it for trash if you need a second container if it has that lid that's attached. The third, they are going to provide a dumpster, and during this process, it can be thrown in, or you can use it as a bulk item on your trash day, and they'll get rid of it. So I got time for about 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
How is the yard waste going to be accepted at the public?
So waste management's going to be up there for a 6-hour period, and it's just going to be, we're going to have it parked and just traffic flow through the area. You'll just, we'll loop it around and bring it in, and waste management's, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to operate. If it's in the brown bags, they will take those directly. So, for example, myself, I don't have a truck. I have a van and a car. So I'll put my grass clippings into a brown bag, put it in my trunk, and give them the brown bag at the facility.
And you're not going to accept bundled tree branches?
They'll take bundled tree branches at that collection, yes. You got to bring them up there. That's correct. I got time for one more. Let's go with you, ma'am. I think you had your...
Will the leaf collection process be the same for 2019 as it is in 2018?
The only difference is there's going to be an additional one in the spring. So we're going to have a leaf collection event probably around the 1st of May, and then we'll have 7 leaf collection events in the fall where you can also put out your bundled sticks and your regular leaf bags. So I want to move on to the next presentation. We've got a lot of information to cover. If I didn't get to your question, we'll have about 30 minutes at the end, and also I'll be available for about half an hour in the back room. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to John Quinlisk, and John's going to talk about the municipal separate storm sewer system. And John.
Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is John Quinlisk. I'm the environmental engineer for Bethel Park. And as Sean said, I'm going to talk about the municipal separate storm sewer system. We need to load this presentation up. So MS4, you might have heard that and remembered it from last year. Probably not. But MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, which, can you forward it?
Hey, John, you have to talk in the microphone.
All right, sir. I will do that.
Point towards the computer.
What's that?
Point towards the computer.
Thank you. I'm pointing at the screen. Power. Okay. Would that work better?
You're on BPTV too.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have in Bethel Park a municipal separate storm sewer system. That's where they get the acronym MS4. Some communities, can you hit the next slide? Thank you. Some communities have to have a single pipe where storm sewer and sanitary sewer goes into one pipe. We have 2 separate pipes. So one sanitary sewer pipe goes to the sewage treatment plant and the sewage is treated. The storm sewer pipe goes right into the stream, and that's the emphasis here. Anything that enters a catch basin or an inlet goes right into the stream, and as you can see, there's some construction runoff going on there and coming right into the stream below. So that's a problem. Similarly, if you dump something into an inlet that's not supposed to be in there, and by the way, the only thing that's supposed to go into the storm sewer is storm water. So again, it's going to go right to the stream. So Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection is enforcing this requirement on communities across the state. And we have 4 large areas that we're focusing on: Sawmill Run, Brush Run, Lower Chartiers Creek, and Piney Fork Creek. And because of DEP's requirements, we have what's called the 6 minimum control measures. And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but I want to emphasize what we're doing in the community. One of them is public education and outreach. That's one of the things we're doing tonight, getting the message out to people and what MS4 entails and what the requirements are. Again, the image is supposed to convey the idea. If you dump something in an inlet, it's going to go into the stream, so please don't do that. We've also been engaged in public involvement projects throughout the last couple of years, getting people familiar, getting people actually out on the ground doing things to improve water quality. So as I mentioned, if someone dumps something in the stream, or into the storm sewer system, it goes to the stream, and we will try to track that down and find out who is doing that. That's known as the illicit discharge detection and elimination program. One thing we're highly involved in is anytime there's a construction site, there are measures implemented to keep the sediment out of the stream. Obviously, this is one example where that failed. So, but again, anything that goes into that inlet is going to go right into the stream and create havoc with the water quality. After construction, you might notice a new construction, and there's usually a pond constructed near that. And that's to control runoff and manage the rate of flow into the waters nearby. Basically, the way I like to describe this is you're telling the water, you're allowed to flood here so that so you don't flood somewhere else. So we create an area where it can flood. And then the last one is taking care of our own facilities, our public works facility, this building, the fire stations, community center, et cetera. We need to do good housekeeping and make sure we're not contributing to the problem. So those are the 6 minimum control measures, but in addition to that, DEP is requiring us to comply with a permit to reduce the sediment load, so that muddy water you saw is full of sediment, and also reduce nutrients that go into the stream. So we submitted our permit application last year. It's under review. We're expecting a permit here shortly. And the result of that permit is that several projects are going to need to be performed. And that is, I think we're going to be talking about those here a little bit later on. So let me catch up with myself here. So we've talked about what the municipality is doing. What can you do? As I mentioned, the only thing that should go in the storm sewer is stormwater. So if you're applying pesticides or fertilizers to your lawn, don't overdo it. Do what's required, do what the recommendations are, but don't overdo it, because that extra fertilizer, that extra pesticide will run off in the rain, and it contaminates the water in the vicinity. If you're changing your oil, don't dump it down the drain, please. If you have extra liquid, chemicals, cleaning fluids, whatever, don't dump that down the drain. Swimming pools, if you're draining your swimming pool, try to drain it into the sanitary sewer system. If there's a nice grassy area, you can let it soak into the grass, that's fine. But if it runs off into the street, it's going to go into the inlets and cause problems. And also don't dump grass clippings or leaves or anything like that into the inlets or the waterways. That is a real quick summary of the MS4 program. Sean, do we have time for any questions? Yes, go ahead.
I'm actually going to be doing my first oil change myself. And I was wondering, where do you dispose of the car oil?
You know what? I haven't changed my own oil for years.
I'll take that one, as I still change my own oil. But you can go to usually like any auto parts store, like Advanced Auto or Napa. They usually will take that material free of charge. Yeah, you can actually reuse that in oil burners for heat sources. So
I will tell you, don't put it in the inlet. In the back? Go ahead.
The catch basins have a lot of storm water that doesn't make it because of leaks. From public works. Because in one situation, I've been cleaning your leaks, storm drains for the last 4 years. Thank you.
I got that, Susan. Well, we appreciate your work, and actually, our Public Works Director is going to cover that here and during her presentation.
Yes, sir.
I noticed you didn't put anything in there about sewage.
Correct.
Would sewage not be allowed into stormwater?
That's absolutely correct. Sewage,
So in other words, all the sewage that entered my front yard that then went through these things, that would be not good?
it's not supposed to go into the storm sewer.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
What are some of the projects that you mentioned that would be part of the permit you guys are getting?
So right now in our plans, we have 4 stream restoration projects, and those are going to be designed to minimize erosion in 4 different areas of the community. And we're also looking at other projects that might fit into that scenario as well. Okay.
Is that gonna reach down there?
All right, how about I just talk really loudly?
Yours should be fine.
All right. So my name's Stacy Graff. I'm the Director of Engineering. Can I have that?
Thanks.
Today I'm going to talk to you about stormwater management and specifically discussing the flooding and the municipality's response to the June 20th flooding event. So as you're all aware, on June 20th, we were hit with a significant storm. We received over 5 inches of rain in a period of 2 hours. This equates to approximately a 500-year storm. 500-year storm doesn't mean it's going to happen every 500 years. It's a 1 in 500 chance of happening, which is a 2.2% chance of happening. So a 2-year storm is a 1 in 2% chance, a 50% chance of happening. Okay. Better? Okay. So in that June 20th event, we had approximately 450 calls. Just recently, in the month of September, we had 3 straight days of rain, September 8th, 9th, and 10th. That was approximately 8 inches of rain in 72 hours, and that event only triggered approximately 23 reports. The 2 storms, while both heavy storms, are 2 different types of storm. One is quick. Those affect different types of people than the long, drawn-out storms. And just for some comparative purposes, the rainfall totals currently for the year up through October are 46 inches approximately, where the wettest year on record was 2004 at 57 inches, and our average is 38. So as you can see, we're already well above that average. I just wanted to highlight some photos from the June 20th event. We have at the top, we have cars underwater. That was the trolley stop in. At the top middle, that's Beagle Drive by the T-stop. That pavement was completely destroyed in that event. There's actually trees under that asphalt. Where you see the orange cone, that's Comanche Drive. That's a sinkhole that formed in the middle of the road. The bottom left is Simmons Park near the baseball fields, the retaining wall that runs along the creek. The middle bottom, that's Main Street, a sinkhole that formed behind the inlet. And we have a manhole in the backyards of Mapleview. We had some significant damage to residents, Kings Mill Road, Thunderwood, and Greenbrier. The bottom picture is a picture of the inside of the trolley stop in and a nice car in their parking lot sitting on a bar stool. So what have we been doing since June 20th? We've done a lot of repair work. Approximately 25 inlets have had to have been rebuilt, 5 manholes. We had 9 sinkholes within the roads. We replaced 3 areas of collapsed pipe, dredged 3 ponds. We had to completely repave 6 roads. There was significant damage to our wastewater treatment plant. Altogether, this has cost us about $900,000 to outside contractors since June 20th. Public Works also worked very hard at fixing inlets as well. Any inlet that's under 4 feet, they are able to do in-house. So that's not included in the 25 inlet count that is listed above. They walk the streams multiple times after every event since then to check for debris in the streams. We've sent letters to all the residents along streams to try to get them to clean up any brush or debris so that it doesn't clog culverts and bridges like the picture listed above. I believe this is Upper St. Clair, Bridgeville area. So what are our next steps? In August of 2018, we did pass a new stormwater management ordinance, which makes development within the municipality stricter. In 2017, we actually passed a resolution that if you're adding more than 400 square feet of impervious area to any lot, you have to detain that area for a 24-hour period, 2 inches of rain. We've had lots of permits for additions, decks, new driveways coming in, so they all have to stick by this requirement. Moving forward, we don't just want to make bigger pipes. That only causes the water to get downstream faster. What we want to do is try to detain it upstream of those. Through that, we will do utilizing swales, rain garden, detention tanks, retention ponds. Right now, we're working on with council on a phase 1 of that, which would hopefully include projects in the ground next year. Additional phases after those projects are done will be based on our budget and moving. All these projects are on publicly owned property that we have proposed right now. Any questions? Yes, sir.
How was the wastewater treatment plant damaged? I presume it's because you don't have separation of stormwater.
Take that. Piney Fork flooded into our secondary clarifiers, our primary clarifiers down at the treatment plant. Additionally, our UV units had to be raised up with a manual crane we have because the stream just flooded our new UV building. So really it was a Piney Fork coming out of its banks, getting inside of our piping network, causing debris and overflowing our tanks.
We have a separate system, but when you get this kind of rainfall, there's nothing that can handle that event.
I understand that part.
Backing up to the beginning where you had a picture about damage that was happening to these places like the trolley stop. All along, I lived down in that area. And all along, I noticed over the years, many years, or maybe I'm going back with my age or something, but I remember before the DEP got involved, I don't know what the rules and regulations are, but the townships and boroughs used to be able to go in there with backhoes and clean out some of these creeks, and keep them. And now, you got all these rules and regulations, so these creeks and stuff can't get cleaned up. I understand we got a lot of rain going on, I get that. But see, all that's backed up, that one where you showed up in Upper St. Clair, all that stuff was debris. But what's laying in there now? None of that's being taken care of over these years. I don't know what the rules are. I'm not the professional, not being go in there and clean it out. I mean, I could do my best as far as litter and stuff like that. But when you're talking down old trees and stuff, that's causing a problem.
Right, so we have taken the initiative to send letters to all those residents through volunteers. People have called in and we've helped clean those things out of the stream. That's something we'll continue with moving forward.
Well, that's what I was wondering, like over the years, like before all this happened, maybe that could have been taken care of because even the township and stuff could have went in there and had the things cleaned up. I understand like Peters Creek, they stock it with fish. I get that, and then now these are some of the results because over the years they weren't getting cleaned up.
So moving forward, we'll do better. Yes, ma'am.
Which municipal properties are you proposing to start on phase 1?
I don't think we're prepared to talk about that today. Yes. You want me to talk about it?
We've got time for about 30 more seconds, so we maybe hold that towards the end.
Out of the properties that were hit in September, how many of those properties were properties that were hit previously over the years?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I could get that to you.
I'd say at least one.
Well, I'm sure there is more because it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
There's creek runoff. I was informed by a contractor there were 30-some dumpsters loaded and unloaded that clogged that Sill Hall underpass, which caused a tremendous beaver dam on Baldwin Street in Bridgeville. All Bridgeville borough municipalities addressed the fact that they want to put tethers on every dumpster in that community to prevent that. So that's something you need to address with the businesses along the stream. If those things get loose, they float. Thank you.
Sure.
Did get water in September, so again, it depends on the storms.
Correct.
My question is, when people have their downspouts come out to the roads, are we gonna address, I mean, is somebody gonna go around and have those people back that up because they're taking their water from the roofs, coming down downspouts and putting it right out on the streets? Is anybody gonna address that?
No,
Not
you're
Front Street.
you're
Supposed to put that on your own yard.
legally, Dennis will address that. Code enforcement will address that in his presentation.
Okay. I need to click the. Is it my formatting a little weird? All right. All right, so, still a public meeting. Okay, my name is Ashley Moore. I'm the municipal planner. Right next to me is Chuck Sover. Here is our recreation director. So I'm going to be talking about the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, or otherwise known as DCNR, and that is the grant that helped us fund the park assessment. I'm also going to talk about the grant statuses for some of the proposed recreation improvements. Chuck's going to show you some new construction, new park equipment, and some recreation programs he wants you to know about. Okay, so back in 2015, the municipality was awarded the grant from DCNR to complete a park and recreation assessment. Oftentimes when you do apply for these grants for construction or new playground equipment, the application requires that the proposed improvements are part of a comprehensive plan or a study. So with the help of our consultants and the study committee shown here, the assessment was adopted in May 2017, and it is to be used as a guide for park and recreation improvements. This is the list of all of the parks that are maintained and owned by the municipality. As you can see, there's a lot of them. There's about 14, not including South Park. So through public outreach, which included surveys, key person interviews, and public meetings, the top responses we heard for a number of our parks was the desire for a community pool, a water feature, updated restroom facilities, and more modern playground equipment. So we fast forward to today. For recommendations, we started making changes to many of our larger community parks, which I have an example of Village Green. We took an inventory of what was there, what programs or uses that were lacking, followed the action plan recommended by our consultants, also recommendations from the public outreach, and we are putting the lacrosse and soccer field there. Now, due to the size of the field that we wanted, it's not going to look exactly like this master plan. We will have just one regulation field and one practice field. We're going to have a walking trail and updates to the existing restroom. So construction is ongoing. The project is expected to be completed this fall. So we've applied to many state and county grants for just to fund some of these recreation improvements. The trail system, an application was submitted to the county for improvements to provide a safe connection between the Lytle Park and Ride Station to Brightwood Road, which is closer to the Route 88 intersection. We see many people walking along the shoulder along Brightwood Road. So just to make a safer route for them, we applied for this grant, which we were awarded. So So we were awarded, and so the plan is to study if this trail connection is feasible and how much it would cost. For Miners Park, we applied for a grant through the county for baseball field improvements, new walkway, rehabilitation of the existing concession stand and bathroom facilities. Millennium Park, an application was submitted to the state for a turfed baseball field, bleachers, refurbished the existing restrooms and add concessions, a perimeter trail, and a portable fence. Now, Park Avenue will be done in 3 phases. The first phase is an application through the county for a large area of new playground equipment. Future grant funding will be pursued for the second and third phases, which includes a new concession stand, restrooms, and the splash pad or water feature that is so desired. The next parks in line will be our neighborhood parklets, which include Oak Tree, Molly Hill, Birch Tree, Elm Tree, and Pine Tree. So those improvements include playground equipment, some pavilions, seating, and some other park-specific recommendations. So if you're interested to see what the recommendations are for each park, the results of the survey, please visit the website under Parks and Leisure Services to review the assessment. And again, the assessment is to be used as a tool. It's not going to be set in stone what we're going to do. I'm going to turn it over to Chuck.
Thank you, Ashley. We're going to show you some great photos of our new equipment at Simmons Park, Elm Tree, and Village Green. This is the refurbishing of the bathrooms up at Village Green Park. They're projected to be done by the end of October, Sean. So both bathrooms so far look great. This is the 2 to 5 year old play apparatus at Simmons Park. This is the 5 to 12 year old playground on the left. Play apparatus on the left-hand side of Simmons Park. This is a merry-go-round. It has a governor on it. On the right-hand side, it can only go up to 2 or 3 miles an hour, I believe they said. And the funnest thing at the park is the new zip line. It's 75 feet long. Adults go ride it. It is total fun. Me and my son were down there a couple Saturday nights ago taking turns in the dark. So, yeah, the lights were out. So. This is the new Public Works garage at Simmons on the left-hand side. The other one was hit by lightning and caught on fire last October, I do believe. So, and we are adding, insurance covered this, and we were adding 2 family all-gender bathrooms down here at the bottom, so you don't have to walk if you're at the playground all the way down to the other end of Simmons Park to go to the bathroom. And this project is slated to be completed October 31st. This is the existing bathrooms down by the middle field at Simmons. This is also expected to be completed October 31st. And this is the new playground equipment in Elm Tree Park. This was replaced by insurance money. We had a tree fall on it last year, so we updated the little parklet there. This is more of the playground. And for any information, you can look in the Chronicles or online. We do have November 2nd a family fun night at the community center. We are doing a magician and magic show. So, or magician and comedian magic show for the kids. Bring your families. There's flyers out front for all of our programs. That's all I have. Yes.
Is there any adult playground equipment, and how much is it? No, seriously. Do we have any shuffleboard? Do we have any?
Oh, nothing like that.
Horseshoes?
We have horseshoes up at Village Green. We are looking into possible where we can put some adult things. So.
And zip line, what's the weight limit?
The zip line weight limit's 350 pounds. We have pickleball courts down at Simmons Park, so they are very popular. So.
What about, we want like the obstacle course, but I don't know if I should say that now.
For any other information, but I noticed that we had bought the property up there in Simmons Park, that hillside, Do you have any idea what's gonna be done with that, or is it just?
We started looking at that. I went out a couple weeks ago with a urban forester from Penn State. We looked through the park. We actually walked up into the park, and we talked about hiking trails, maybe with some workout stations, adult activities throughout the woods, outdoor classroom, stuff like that. Yes, sir.
Have you given any thought to any of the parks for dog parks?
I have not. I don't know if we talked to, if other people have talked about it, but I have not. Dog parks, or a lot of people like them, but there's a lot of issues with them right now. I know municipality got sued had to pay medical bills up to $10,000 for a dog that was in a dog park. So there's a lot of issues with that before we'd have to look at.
No, we're getting a lot of questions.
The field behind the community center always says field closed. Who does that field belong to, the community or?
That is a municipal field, but it's designated as a game day only field because Bethel Park Junior Football and Bethel Park Soccer put a lot of the money into that field, and they want that to be designated game day only. Because when we went 7 days a week on that field, there was never any grass on it. So, yes, sir.
The areas in the parks where you have poison ivy, can you put up a sign, caution poison ivy?
What's that? The Public Works Director would have to answer that. The Public Works Director would have to answer that.
If you let us know on that citizen action line, we'll take care of that. We have that citizen action line. If anyone comes across it.
If someone walks through the park, it's been quite evident for years.
Oh, I don't know.
And I'm just asking for a sign, caution poison ivy in the park.
Well, we don't want to have poison ivy in the park, so if you drop us a line on that citizen action line, we'll take care of it.
Okay, if there's any additional questions, we'll hold to the end. We're going to turn it over to Dennis Smith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dennis Smith. I represent the Department of Building Inspections and Code Enforcement. We are a branch of the Community Services Department. Our department consists of three of us, myself, Mr. Robert Hicks, and Mr. Jeff Donatelli. To kind of give you a background of what each of us does, I am the building code official, the zoning officer, and the municipal fire marshal. I oversee the Department of Building Inspections and Code Enforcement. I handle plan reviews, mainly dealing with commercial, so commercial plan reviews and inspections, anything from signs to large projects such as the South Hills Village Apartments, known as the Ashby or Rite Aid, things like that. I also handle and aid in handling the zoning hearing board applications, the submittals for that. Also, I sit as secretary on the zoning hearing board, which is the first Monday of every month. And basically, that is for those who are seeking relief or a variance from Chapter 69 of our ordinance, which is the zoning ordinance. I also perform various fire safety inspections, whether it's a healthcare facility or somebody's simply a new occupant or opening up a new business. Now, as far as the rest of our team, Mr. Robert Hicks, he's the construction code official. He's in charge of the plan reviews for residential, also the inspections for residential, anything from additions to new home construction. Also, he'll issue zoning permits for sheds, things like that, artisan permits as well. And then Mr. Jeff Donatelli, he's our code enforcement officer, or property maintenance is basically his focus. So he takes care of the complaints that we receive, issues violation letters, citations if necessary, and also represents in court via the hearings that we may have scheduled. So that's kind of an idea of what we do in the building inspections and code enforcement. Just a couple updates and reminders for everybody here in the municipality. First, dealing with property maintenance, I just want to touch on a couple of the concerns, one specifically. Basically, our goal is the safety and the quality of living here in the municipality of Bethel Park. And that being the case, we always would like to see compliancy within a reasonable amount of time. That's not always something that we do see. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the process from complaint to compliancy. So basically, if you have a complaint, we receive complaints several different ways, whether it's via telephone, you call in here to the office, or eGov is the method that we would recommend. You could go online and issue a complaint via eGov, which is an electronic application. You can come in person or email. So once we receive the complaint, that kind of triggers our step process. We'll verify the complaint. We'll send out a letter to the property in violation. And then once we verify that, we possibly send out either a second notice, depending on what the violation may be, or we may go straight to citation. And that in itself is the beginning of yet another process. So once the court registers the citation that we send out, then they send a notice to the person in violation, and they have to respond. So again, this is all time going by. If they do respond to the citation, then a hearing date will be scheduled. If they don't, then a warrant will go out, and again, time goes by. So this can be a real lengthy process. Again, that's why we always hope that compliancy is something that occurs fairly quickly. Otherwise, if you, as the complainant, you can feel that it's taken too much time, but we want to assure everyone that once we receive the complaint, it is in process. So we are working on those things as they come in. Unfortunately, it's not an overnight process. And now, as far as building code goes, there are some updates and reminders in that regard. The biggest update is starting January 1st of 2019, we're going to be enforcing the 2015 I-codes. So that means the International Residential Code, the International Building Code. All the I-codes are going to be used at that time as mandated by the state. So not only do we follow the statewide construction code, which is the PAUCC, but we're also going to be, once again, in January 1st, starting with the 2015 I-codes. That will have a direct effect both on residential and commercial properties and construction, dealing with anything from materials all the way to labor. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, whether you're having some work done on your house or by a professional or doing it yourself. Also, you want to keep in mind that if you're not sure if a permit is required for anything, whether it's an accessory structure or any work that you're doing, it's always best to take a couple seconds, give us a call, and we'll be able to handle that over the phone, let you know whether or not you need to come in for a permit. With that in mind, I guess out in the hall there and back, we have these trifolds. They kind of give you a rundown of our department here. Building inspections and code enforcement gives you a brief rundown on whether or not we need a permit to do anything. Also what code enforcement handles and some tips on what we can do dealing with reporting violations. We also have the various permits that are required, as well as how to and who to contact in these regards. Now, moving on to some more information dealing with drainage, as we have mentioned just a little bit ago, we know that many have been affected by the recent rains and floods. And this is really one of the benefits of obtaining a permit and scheduling inspections. And it's to ensure as much as humanly possible that the systems aren't overloaded, nor are we creating issues for our neighboring properties. Our municipal ordinance in chapter 31.3.2 says any subsurface drain, so basically any French drain or any underground drain, yard drain, interior or exterior, any subsurface drain must discharge into a properly sized pit, storm sewer, catch basin, running stream, or water course. So we want to keep that in mind. We deal a lot with interior French drains, with sump pumps, things like that, which brings me to the next point. If you have or are installing a sump pump, again, according to that ordinance, you must discharge into the same as above, which is a properly sized pit, storm sewer, catch basin, or running stream or water course. Now, as far as downspouts go, downspouts are allowed to drain to the surface. So they're allowed to drain right out onto the yard, and based on two conditions. The first condition being that it drains away from the structure. You don't want to have any issues with your foundation. But at the same time, the second condition would be that it doesn't create a nuisance for neighboring properties or structures as well. So you want to keep those things in mind. We'll touch on a couple questions here soon. So it's understandable that, especially since the floods that occurred and some of the rain events, that many want to improve their situation or try to take preventative measures. And, you know, we're behind that 100%. It's just that we ask that you stop in, let us know what you're doing, get a permit so that the engineers here can make sure that everything's going to function properly for everybody. And one brief thing on grading, again, our ordinance, chapter 40.4, it brings out that a grading permit is necessary for any new grading, excavations and fills, changes, additions, or alterations made to the property. So basically, it's just one of those things, again, if you're not sure, just call and we'll let you know if you need a permit for that. And again, it's to verify slopes, changes in elevation, runoff, possible future issues that may occur, landslide potential, things like that. So we want to make sure that we're looking at out for the good of everybody. So basically, once again, our department pretty much encompasses everything pertaining to in and around your home and property, as well as anything commercial. Our goal is, and has always been the safety and the well-being of our residents and businesses here, so that both can thrive and enjoy life here in the municipality. So I'll take, I think we have 2 or 3. Okay, a couple questions. Okay, go ahead.
So, can a drain spout go into the neighboring property?
It cannot cross the line. Again, it cannot create a nuisance to the neighboring property. If it's creating a nuisance to that property, it cannot do that. That's one of the two conditions, right? Yes, sir.
Downspouts allowed to run out onto the street still?
Downspouts, they can daylight out onto the property. It can run out onto the street. Sure.
As long as it's not an internal sump pump, anything, like you said, that's underground, collecting a spring or something like that, you can't. But if it's just your downspouts, yes.
Right, so subsurface drains can't.
So an interior French drain that's plumbed into the downspout drain?
Cannot. They have to be separated.
Let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of contractors that put in interior French drains with sump pumps and they bring it out to the wall and put right in the downspout.
Correct. Yeah, we see that all the time. They need to be separated. So you would have to separate it. The downspout can daylight, and then the drainage discharge for the sump pump would have to go into either a pit or any one of these other into a storm sewer, catch basin, anything like that.
So it could be plumbed out and tapped into a catch basin in the street?
Sure. Yes, sir.
In terms of downspouts being connected to municipality storm sewers, Is anything being done to dye test those to make sure they are going to where they need to be going?
So
Municipality?
once a house is up for sale, it initiates the process of dye testing. So that's when a dye test is performed.
Houses that have been under ownership for the last 4 years.
Well, if you'd like a dye test, we'd be happy to do it. Oh, okay.
I could answer.
Yeah, why don't you give it to Steve?
Yeah, okay.
If it's a house that flows to Alcosan, a certain part of the sewer shed doesn't go to the treatment plant, it goes to Alcosan. Those were dye tested under a part of a consent order. We have other sections of town that we have completed dye testing in of homes separately. If you are concerned about a house, just let us know and we'll tell you if one was complete.
In terms of water running down to become a nuisance, what if you're at the bottom of a hill and all the water from all the residents going up the hill creates a puddle and infiltrates the storm sewer?
Sure. Well, I can't really speak to the storm sewer portion of that, but water does flow down hills.
Right, it's called the civil law of drainage. The upstream properties have a right to flow downstream, and the downstream properties have a right to protect themselves. That's what the law states. So if you are at the bottom of the hill, as long as those upstream people aren't pumping their water or their downspouts don't go directly to the property line, they're allowed to do that.
It's not the property.
We're going to pass it on to the Public Works Director, Susan Doliner, at this time. But if you do have any specific questions, I definitely encourage you to stay afterwards and talk to the engineering team.
Hi, my name is Susan Dolinar. I'm the Director of Public Works. In the Public Works Department, we have 19 members. Their responsibilities are to maintain the roadways, street signs, and our parks. And then, of course, in the snow weather, removing snow. If you guys notice the sign over there, I'm sure you've noticed within town we've been painting poles and replacing them. Under PennDOT's rules, we had to change from upper to lowercase letters. So if you see that's what's going on, we hope to be completed by the end of the year. So that's something new that's happening. We have 7 parks, 13 ball fields that we maintain. We have for the storm basins, and if you, in front of your home, if you see the 2-by-4 foot grate that's in front in the curb line, that's a storm basin. When you're cutting the lawn or walking the dog or checking out just your property, we'd appreciate it if you clean the leaves off, if you see any defects in it, whether there's a pothole forming or that you notice the bricks are missing inside. We'd really appreciate it if you use the Citizens Action Line. Put the property address that's in there and what you see, and then we will then send one of our first responder guys to check it out. That's how, we have so many of them that we do inspections, but we just can't get to all of them all the time. Snow removal is a real big thing here. We send out 12 truck fleet in 12 square miles, and each time we go out, and that's for less than 3 inches, our guys are out 2.5 hours, and in that 2.5 hours, we throw almost 200 ton of salt. And right now, the price of salt is about $71 a ton. So we asked the citizens if they could please park in your driveway and keep your car off the roadway so that the trucks can do a better job and get it done faster and safer. Manhole lids, I think some of the residents get confused. A manhole lid is the round lid. If you have it in your yard, please do not cover it with mulch. Don't put rocks over top of it. We need to get in that. That maintains the sanitary storm system or sanitary sewer system. We need to be able to get into that. So when you cover it, it's hard for us to find them. And let's see, the last thing is Jim Atkins, my counterpart, is retiring after 41 years. He's finished the middle of next week. We're going to miss him horribly. I'm going to miss him horribly. But do you have any questions? Go ahead.
I called in January about a storm that was on the road. I took pictures of it, okay? The person who I called said, do you want us to call you when it's fixed, okay? It was big enough, the holes around it were big enough that there was a gallon milk container in there. My dog could have fallen in there, okay? Do you know when that was fixed?
I don't know what the address is, Mia.
It was on Ramsgate. It was in September. Okay, 6 months that was like that. There was kids that play on the street. There's kids that stood at that thing. That was ridiculous. Okay, and the workmanship now, if you go down there, it doesn't even flow properly. I mean, it's terrible. You're talking about beautifying Bethel Park. If you look at that, that's horrible. I mean, if that's the kind of workmanship they do, it's terrible.
Do you have, what is the address there on Ramsgate?
It's the corner of, as soon as you turn on Ramsgate. From Gateway.
Okay, we'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I have pictures on my camera. I can show you the date and time when they took them and when they started working on it. And it took 2 weeks for them to finish it when they started.
Okay, we'll check it
So,
out.
I mean, those are things, and the other thing too is, and I'm sorry, but cleaning out the sores, I walk my dogs, okay? I can guarantee you that there are raccoons in their dogs because I've already had them growl back at us, okay? My dog is a coonhound. She scents those, and she will pull me to those, okay? And I do not recommend anyone trying to clean those sores out by themselves with leaves.
No,
because
I'm
it's
asking
very-
the top, ma'am, just the top. Just the top. We're not asking you. If
I see them come out. I'm just cautious because you're gonna have some people getting bit by raccoons and they do say that we have rabbit raccoons around here. So I'm just cautioning it, that's.
just to take the leaves off the top would be great. And if you see that the basin is full, drop us a note on that citizen action line.
Tell you the one going up Scenic View from on Greenbrier has never been cleaned out. I walk my dogs there every day and that thing is constantly, always filled with leaves.
Well, yeah, and that, we're neighbors. I called, and my house had 6 feet of water in the June 20th flood. I called, you guys came out and said there was no debris in it. There is still 2 feet of debris in the storm sewers in front of my house.
And what's the address, ma'am?
1138 Greenbrier Road, and it's 6 feet of water.
We'll check it out. Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing that's to keep in mind is that we have about 6,000 storm basins within the municipality. The ones under 4 foot deep we can work on. The other ones we have to contract out. So we always look we contract them out usually in the May timeframe. So the work doesn't start until June or so for the year. But those ones we have to contract out. To get the better pricing, we try to lump a whole bunch together so we get the best price to save us some money. So. If it was an emergency repair, we do conduct emergency repairs as needed, but we try not to do that because it costs a lot of money to do emergency repairs, so we try to avoid that as necessary. So at this time, we're going to open it up to general questions. So if you have a question for any of us, I know Stacy wanted to get back to Courtney on the one question that she had, but any of us, the chief's also up here. He loves to talk about heroin and chasing people. So yeah, don't forget about him.
Just to answer your question about preliminary locations, I just caution the preliminary. We were looking at Peter Page Park, Oak Tree Park, Birch Tree Park, Elm Tree, and Miners. We're also looking at increasing the size of the pond at Logan and Thunderwood. Peter Page, Oak Tree, Birch, Elm Tree, and Miners Park. And then some changes to the Logan ponds and the pond at Thunderwood.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, can the rain spout go into the stormwater drain?
Okay, so you're talking about the downspouts? Yes, they can.
Stop in the yard if it doesn't belong to the neighbor.
Yes. As long as it's parting away from the house. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It says here that you're gonna save $2 million by not collecting yard waste. Are you gonna be putting any of that money towards a comprehensive recycling program?
Unfortunately, the price of trash collection and recycling collection in general increased more than we've paid in the past. So the money that we're saving is just to maintain the current pricing structure we're at now. So unfortunately, no, we have some really early discussions about anything we can do with glass. I know there's a lot of communities adjacent to us that are also interested in what can we do with glass. So there has been some preliminary discussions on that avenue.
You are looking at getting together with neighboring municipalities and putting some kind of recycling drop-off thing?
It's real preliminary at this point, but it is something that we're hoping that, so we're with a group of 23 municipalities, 19 work on the waste contract through what's called the South Hills Area Council of Governments. So we are going to have that as a topic of discussion in the future.
When there's a landfill crisis and you're going to bigger and bigger trash carts, I just feel that it's very neglectful to the environment and potentially a waste of money because the landfill crisis is going to return, and instead of encouraging people to collect more trash in bigger vehicles and bigger carts, perhaps the municipality should be looking at really encouraging people to recycle.
Yeah, one of the things with the new carts, so the 96-gallon holds about 10 kitchen trash bags. Currently, you're allowed to put out 15, so we'll help hopefully reduce that amount of trash that does go. You are allowed a second container, but we're hoping that most people just kind of use one and go from that route. But
They're so huge, I wouldn't be able to put that in my garage, and I'm not leaving it out the front of my house. A lot of the properties in Bethel Park are quite small, they don't have garages, they're on slopes, so those things are heavy. I can just see them being left outside properties and actually being an eyesore and not beautifying the edge of the neighborhood at all.
and that's one thing, we have the three different sizes. So there is a small one in the middle. It might be hard to see just from your angle, but there's a one that only holds 2 to 3 kitchen bags, so it's pretty minimal in size. Yeah, and under our ordinance, it does require trash to be inside of a container, so it's not really a new requirement. It's just something that's going to be enforced now. So, yes, ma'am.
I know around holiday times, everybody experiences a lot of like excess garbage and trash from presents and everything. Are we allowed to stick that outside the can around that time?
Yeah, Waste Management tells us we'll pick those up on those rare occasions that there is trash outside of the container. Yep. So, sir, I think you had a question back here. I missed you.
Yeah, it's going back to this glass issue, I'm afraid. But it seems like the South Hills municipalities are being driven in a direction by the waste companies. So, you know, it used to be the situation where recycling was separated by people in their homes, and it was collected in vehicles that had separate containers. So, you know, they separated into glass, metal, plastic, paper, and they were kept that way. Now, what you've got is people like Waste Management who have got these big trash compacting trucks, which they obviously want to use. And so everything goes together, it goes into the back of the trash compacting truck, the glass gets broken, right, which obviously, and they complain that they're getting contamination with broken glass. But in fact, it's probably Waste Management and Republic who are doing that. So their solution to it is don't give us any glass to recycle, right? Which is the wrong direction to be going in. What they should be doing is they should be collecting stuff responsibly. They should be treating it better, and therefore having nice, clean waste streams. They're messing it all up. They're making what they're collecting worth less, and they're preventing us from recycling product that we want to recycle.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do at this time. It is a crisis we're under, it is a crisis kind of nationally that didn't happen kind of overnight. It was years of contamination of recyclables to China, which really put us in a position we're now. And unfortunately, I can't really talk about that. Let's move on to another question. There's lots of questions and lots of people here, and we have some information on the website that addresses your specific issue. Yes, sir.
All I was going to say is I think the market for glass has really gone away. I think that's one of the major issues. That no one wants there's an overabundance of glass. There's not a market for it. It costs more to recycle it than it actually costs. It's just not worth it at this point.
There's a glass recycling company 20 miles south of here.
All right, we're going to move on, but yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I got a question for code enforcement. When the gentleman back there asked you about the drains going into those inside, what do you call them? Sub pumps. Okay, was that code changed? Is it grandfathered? I mean, if they're already pre-existing, they're not allowed? When did that code go in? Was that code always like that?
Yeah, since 1998.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean they're done. Because they didn't get a permit.
Yeah, and that's why we require permits now for any kind of internal sumps so that we know where the water's going, we understand where it's going. Because one of the big things is our sewer system becomes overwhelmed during high-level rain events. We're trying to get that water from homes out of our sewer system and make sure it's managed properly. So that's something we're working on. Yes, ma'am.
Everything we spoke about today, how does that affect our taxes?
Yeah, one of the things we are looking at is a tax increase, and one of the things that I'll use this. One of the big drivers is the MS4 requirements. So we have a federal and state mandated program that's requiring us to remove certain contaminants from stormwater, which includes sediment and nutrients. Unfortunately, Bethel Park discharges to 4 impaired waterways, so our requirements are a lot more onerous than other situated municipalities. In addition to that requirement, we also discharge waters to 2 what's called TMDL waterways, which actually give us a pollution limit on how much sediment and nutrients we can discharge to those waterways. So we have some very, very difficult requirements to meet as far as stormwater goes. This changed this year with the submission of our new permit requirements and pollutant reduction plan, as John talked about from our environmental engineering department. So that is what we're looking at. The proposed tax increase is 0.25 mils at this point, which we'll be having a public hearing next Monday in this room at 7:45. That tax increase equates to about $50 a year on a home assessed at $200,000, about $25 a year for a home assessed at $100,000.
It's a deal.
It is a deal. It's a deal.
One of the things I just want to talk about, is. So we have requirements that are put on to us by the federal and the state government, which are unfunded. That means that we are receiving no funding to go out and do these programs. One of the things we want to do is kind of get creative with our MS4 program. How can we resolve flooding issues and meet our MS4 requirements? So that's why when Stacey was talking about some different projects, retention things in our parks and looking at some other areas, we're hoping to reduce flooding, meet the MS4 requirements. Unfortunately, it is a burden on us and our tax-paying citizens, but that is the case. Yes, sir.
Did anybody up there address the alleged gas station at Cool Springs?
Ashley would be happy to do that, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I'm sitting down here a little bit now.
Well, so we have 3 applications. We have a rezoning application, a major subdivision application, and a major land development application. At this point, all of those applications have been postponed. So right now, I'm expecting them to be on, well, let me back up. 2 of those applications, the rezoning and the subdivision, are before council right now. So the next time, October 22nd is the next time those applications will be on the agenda. I am getting word that they probably will postpone again. So if they do not, if they continue to move forward, we're going to be scheduling a public hearing, hopefully in November. And once council schedules that public hearing, I can send out notices, post the property, advertise in the paper, and that will be when the residents can come out and voice their, concerns, questions, ask questions, have comments. So if it gets past the public hearing, council will have a voting date, which if that hearing is in November, the voting date could be December. That's if it's on the agenda. Like I said, it was tabled and is postponed. The major land development is before the Planning Commission. That has also been tabled, and I'm not expecting that to be on the agenda until October 31st and November 14th. Like I said, it's looking like they're going to table it again, but that's what I'm anticipating. So as far as I'm concerned right now, it's still kind of up in the air. I won't know probably until the end of the day tomorrow what they're going to do, because that is their deadline. Okay. Oh, I didn't know I had power to pick people. You.
Yes, Carrie.
Mrs. Stair, please. As far as this phasing, phase 1, phase 2 of this stormwater management program, can you describe, I know everything's still preliminary, can you describe what your analysis is like in choosing areas that you want to target, and can you describe what kind of process you're putting in place to ensure that the information that you're getting about like where flooding is coming from, for example, to make sure that that's accurate so that you're not assuming maybe wrong things?
So what we did was look at history of problem areas, and I printed out big maps and kind of highlighted where all the repeated problem areas are. And then we looked for property that we owned where we could do projects. As far as prioritization, I looked at 8 different factors and came up with a list. From there, we'll seek funding through a low-interest loan and see what we can get done through that loan process.
Do you have a time frame on when you expect these different phases to be rolled out?
Can I answer that?
Not at this time, but we will be discussing with council in future meetings. Kind of the first step in the process is making sure that a budget goes through with the monies necessary to support that program. We'll go back here.
We have had 4 major backups of sewage into our home in the past 5 years. And we have been seeking help from Bethel Park since 2013. Each time we are met with the answer that it is an act of God. And we understand that rain is an act of God, but we are also under the understanding that sewage is the responsibility of the municipality. Not only that, as we alluded to before, each time this happens, there is sewage water bubbling from the manhole at the corner of the street, going right into the storm drain right next to it. We are trying to extract all the sewage water from our house, pushing it into drains, because where else is it supposed to go? So we just want to know, who do we go to for help?
Our engineering department would handle kind of complaints of that nature, so that would be the first step in trying to get that resolved. So we are looking at those locations that are repeat offenders, so we want to make sure that you do notify us when you have an event at your house so that we can come out, see what's going on, make sure we have the right information so that we can review the situation.
You have been notified each time, 3 times this year, as well as your insurance company, so.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on that too. I was told that my house never flooded when we purchased our property in November of 2015. While we were moving into our house, there was the catch basin tied into our storm sewer. Sean, I talked to you and you told me that there was never a problem. My house flooded in April of 2015. Obviously, we were never told about it. I don't know if you were ever aware of that. How do we know going forward what to do to our house if there's just a catch basin installed draining into a storm sewer that's just going to keep backing up and flowing water into our house?
We'll have to look at that specific situation, but, and make sure we have all the information. I think that's the first. We've recognized that there was another issue out there prior to that event.
Neighbors have told me there's been 4 floods at my house.
Okay, we have her address, so that's something we can take a look at and be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any comprehensive deer control plan?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Deer control.
I'll pass it on to Chief O'Connor.
We use whitetail, and they come up and they hunt every year. They're actually hunting now, and we're always looking for land to get them to hunt in. And I know recently they started moving down the acreage that the municipality bought adjacent to Simmons Park. They're active down there, and we also worked out a deal where the Lions Club has opened their property up for them to hunt.
It sleeps in my backyard all the time. I too. One time I counted 14 deer.
I have the only oak trees on my street. They love my yard.
Yeah, and I'll also say, you as a property owner also have, you can take measures to keep them off of your property. We did have a seminar a while back on suggestions on how to do that, and if there are things that you can, sprays you can use, you can put up fishing line, there are things that you can use to keep them off your property. If you don't take any affirmative steps, they will come on your property.
I've got a 5-foot fence, they jump right over it.
Yeah, so we're always looking for ways that we can eradicate them and keep them under control. Yes.
How successful was the hunt last year?
It was under 100. It was under 100. I don't have the precise figures here with me. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have to have a permit for a deer fence?
I don't know. You need a permit for a fence?
You don't need a permit for a deer fence. It's not a regular fence, but a deer fence, like that netting.
I'm not sure what a deer fence is.
It's like black netting.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't need a permit for any fence.
Oh, you don't? Okay. For any fence?
Well, over 6 feet, you need a permit for it?
Go ahead.
This is something for code enforcement?
I thought I would. Although I had one, but
To international code starting January 2019. What codes does that affect? Like ordinances or?
The ordinance remains the same, it just affects all building codes.
Okay, do you have like a website link or anything that we?
Yeah, so you can find links to that on either the PAUCC, if you Google that, the Pennsylvania Unified Construction Code. They'll have a link to that, or ICC.net, I think it is.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Fence.
You do not need a permit for a fence. Deer fence.
Netting.
But according to this code, I do need a permit if I'm going to replace my HVAC unit?
Correct. So in regards to fences, just to clear the air with that, right? So you don't need a permit for a fence, but there are still ordinances that pertain to fences.
You're saying fence, you're not saying specifically deer fence.
I'm saying fence in general, correct?
Fence in general. So I don't need a permit to put up a 6-foot fence around my property.
Correct, but you do have to follow ordinance.
But over 6.
Yeah, but I do have to follow ordinance. But I do need a permit if I'm going to replace my HVAC unit.
You got it.
There's a 3 and 4. 26 years old. Really?
Thanks to microphone.
I will just say that if you are in a floodplain, you do need a permit for a fence or any structure in a floodplain. So that is one caveat to that. But there are different requirements for your front yards compared to your backyard, so just make sure you follow those ordinance requirements. We have time for a few more questions, so way in the back.
You said for May 1st to be able to get an extra can. Now, will they be available at that time, or will you usually order them?
We'll order them beginning May 1st. So we want you to try with one can and see, just so you understand what size it is, and then if you really do need a second one, to order a second one.
Well, I want really the little one, and I already, if the municipal building, or the community center assigned the little one, but I really want the little one, I thought I'd buy this one, they're all gonna be the same price.
They're all going to be approximately the same price. They'll be a little cheaper for the smaller ones, but it's probably going to range between $45 and $55. Yes, ma'am in the red.
Going back to the new recycle or the garbage, if you have a front driveway or front garage, is that allowed to sit out in front of your garage door? Not supposed to do that now, right?
We'd have to investigate that, but we'll clear that up. Let's take a look at that. So, yes, ma'am, I think you have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. In the blue. Sorry about that.
If I took out like a medium-sized garbage container and if I were to sell my house and the next
Unfortunately, if you do change size, you would need to pay for the larger size can, about $55. Yes, ma'am.
When Whitestone Management comes in, what do they do with the culled beer? Do they donate? They're good as food vendors.
Yeah, the food is sent and it's processed and it's given away to food banks, yes. Okay.
Hey, gentleman in the gray.
Grass clippings go with your garbage?
Grass clippings can go into garbage. They can also be composted or brought to our Public Works building when we have special collection. Yep.
Just real
Yes,
quick,
ma'am.
the numbers on the cans that like we have here on display will be the numbers that are associated to your house, correct? Your property?
You are going to have a specific number associated with your house. So if your neighbor steals yours, we'll be able to figure it out. We'll catch him. Yes, ma'am.
That would be the chief job. The new trail that's gonna go from Lytle down to 88, the safer route, when is the approximate completion or start?
So the first step in the process is we received a grant to do the design. We're asking a request for an extension until spring of 2019 to do the design. So that process will probably take a couple months to complete. Once that's complete, we'll have some pricing on what it will entail from that standpoint. Yes.
The slide you have up on the screen up front is fantastic. I already researched that information. We have a phenomenal tax rate here. I don't see why people are so upset about a quarter of a mil. Slide and put that out where more people in the community can see it. So it shows
What about
all
a
the people
t-shirt?
lined up.
Yeah.
I have a piece of property, I have a piece of property in Scott Township. My municipal tax bill came, because we bought it about a year ago, and the first tax bill came from municipal tax, and I was shocked compared to what I pay when we live in Bethel Park all my life. And plus, in Scott Township, you pay extra to have your garbage picked up. So, along with that slide, put that out so everybody can see it and say to them, hey, in a lot of these other places, they're paying extra for garbage.
Sure, yeah, we have a star by Peters Township, which appears to be the lowest, but they do have a $200+ per year garbage fee that's not included in that number. So, I mean, living in Bethel Park is really a bargain. We do a lot. We stretch your dollar to the fullest extent we can. We really do. Staff works hard to do that. We run on a little bit of a tight staff, but we try to do the best we can, and that's reflective on the tax rate. Yes, sir.
In terms of stretching your dollar, I feel like that's why we have so many
That's why we're raising the
You're asking us to pay more taxes on property that we can't even use, number one. And number two, you're asking us to pay more when our response from you guys when we got flooded was take out a loan. So, I mean, I just feel like that's kind of getting slapped twice in the face instead of once.
Unfortunately, there's some house locations that are just an engineering difficulty to resolve. There are specific situations, and sir, I'm sure this is the case with yours, where there's been projects attempted and tried, and just nothing has seemed to work. Backflow valves we put on, so that is kind of a very, very preventative measure, so that folks don't get sewage in their house and really try to solve an issue. But there's just some locations are just at the bottom of some very steep topography or topography issues that we have issues addressing. So with that, I'll take one more question, and then we're going to turn it over to Mackin Engineering for a comprehensive plan. I encourage you all to stay around, as it's a very exciting time for Bethel Park as we go through this 10-year plan. So I'll take one more question. Okay, well with that, the staff will be available back in the caucus room back here. If you'd like to have an individual question you'd like to discuss. Definitely lots of cookies, grab a water, take a restroom break while we set up for Mackin Engineering. Thank you.